You think you've seen it all online, but trust me, there's more beneath the surface. Welcome to LurmoStories, where the scariest things aren't the ones you hear about, but the ones you stumble upon when you least expect it. Ready to dive in? I rented the house because it was cheap, close to work, and the landlord didn't ask many questions. Old two-story place in northern Ohio, the kind of neighborhood where everyone keeps their curtains half closed, even during the day. I signed a 3-month lease and moved in with nothing but 2 suitcases and a folding table. During the walkthrough, the landlord paused at a narrow door in the hallway near the kitchen. "This stays locked," he said. His voice wasn't stern, just practiced, like he'd repeated that line too many times. "Basement's off limits, storage only." I asked why, expecting something like structural issues or mold. Instead, he said, "Previous tenant left some things down there. I'll clear it eventually." Then he changed the subject so abruptly, it felt scripted. The lock itself was new, shiny metal on an otherwise worn frame. A square of faint discoloration on the wood suggested the old lock had been ripped out recently. At first, I forgot about it. I worked late shifts, came home exhausted, microwaved something, and fell asleep. The house creaked constantly, but it was old, and old houses complain. Still, the hallway near that door stayed noticeably colder, enough that I started keeping socks on even in August. 3 nights after moving in, I heard something from the basement. Not pipes, not settling. It sounded like a soft dragging motion directly beneath me while I brushed my teeth. Slow, rhythmic, like someone sliding a heavy box a few inches at a time. I stood still, toothbrush in my mouth, listening. The sound paused, then scraped again. The next morning, I told myself it was the furnace kicking on, even though the thermostat was off. I shoved a kitchen towel under the basement door to block the draft. I didn't like how the cold leaked out, as if the door opened into winter. A week in, I found small details that made the place feel wrong. The basement door handle had tiny scratches around the keyhole, like someone had tried to pick it. In the laundry room, directly above where the basement stairs would be, the floor dipped ever so slightly, as though something underneath pressed upward. One evening after work, I noticed the towel I wedged under the door was pushed outward onto the hallway floor. I lived alone, no pets, no guests. When I leaned down to put it back, I felt a faint breeze leaking from the gap, steady, warm, and carrying a smell I recognized only after a moment: metal and something sour, like old coins mixed with sweat. That night at 2:14 a.m., I woke to the unmistakable sound of the basement door handle turning. Not shaking, turning. Slow, deliberate pressure. A steady click, 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 as if someone on the other side was testing how far it would move. I stayed in bed, listening, counting the seconds between each attempt. The handle stopped. The house went silent again. But in the morning, when I walked past the hallway, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The lock. The new, shiny lock had a thin, perfect crack running straight down the center, like it had been stressed from the inside. I called the landlord that afternoon. I tried to sound casual, mentioning the draft and the lock. He cut me off mid-sentence. "Don't touch the door," he said. "I'll come by tomorrow." His tone wasn't annoyed. It was strained, like he was holding his breath. Then he hung up. He didn't come the next day, or the one after. Meanwhile, the sounds from below shifted. The dragging returned, but now it came with sharp taps, irregular and spaced far apart. Sometimes I'd hear 3 or 4, then silence for an hour. I couldn't tell if they were coming from the center of the basement or right beneath the floorboards at my feet. I'd started checking the door multiple times a day, convincing myself it was still locked. Although by then, the crack in the metal had widened. A hairline fracture, but real. I stopped using the hallway light because every time I turned it on, I felt exposed, as if someone beneath the floor could sense exactly where I was. One evening after work, I found muddy fingerprints on the bottom half of the basement door. 5 prints, smeared downward, like a hand had braced against it while rising from the other side. The mud was dry, flaky, and gray, not the color of the soil outside. I didn't know where it came from. That was the night I finally tried to sleep in the living room, away from that hallway. Around 3 a.m., a faint thud traveled up through the floor, directly under the couch. Just one, hard enough that I felt it in my ribs. I sat upright, heart hammering. The house was dead silent after that. No wind, no traffic. Just the kind of stillness you get right before someone talks in a quiet room. The next morning, I found something new. The towel I'd placed under the door was gone. Not pushed aside, gone. The hallway floor was bare, and the gap beneath the door looked wider, as if the frame had swollen or warped. By noon, I couldn't focus on anything. My job called asking why I hadn't shown up for my shift, and I lied about being sick. I spent the rest of the day pacing the house, listening, waiting. At sunset, I noticed a faint scraping sound from behind the door, followed by a soft shuffling, and then a low, hollow cough. Not a groan, not an animal sound, a human cough. Dry, weak. I stepped back instinctively, bumping into the wall. Whoever was on the other side took 2 slow steps upward, wood creaking, weight shifting, like they were climbing the first stairs toward the door. I whispered, "Who's down there?" before thinking. The movement stopped instantly. A long pause followed, so long I wondered if I'd imagined everything. Then a voice, too close to the door, too deliberate, answered in a shaky, rasping whisper. "Is he gone yet?" My throat tightened. "Who?" Silence. Then the voice replied, lower this time, almost wary. "The man who locks us in." I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes on the cracked metal latch. The door didn't move, but the breathing on the other side grew heavier, as if the person were leaning forward, listening through the wood. That was the moment I realized something sickeningly simple. The landlord didn't warn me about the basement because it was dangerous. He warned me because someone was already down there. And they knew I was here now. I waited until morning before calling the landlord again. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail, trying to keep my voice steady, telling him someone was in the basement and I was calling the police. But I didn't call them, not yet. Something held me back. Not fear of trouble, but the sense that bringing anyone else into this house would make things spiral in a way I couldn't undo. Around noon, I heard movement again. This time, it wasn't dragging or tapping. It sounded like someone pacing the length of the basement slowly, deliberately, stopping every so often beneath the hallway. Like they were mapping out exactly where I moved upstairs. When I stepped closer to the door, the pacing stopped. A few seconds later, something slid across the floor toward me, a scraping glide that ended with a soft bump against the stairs. Then a whisper rose through the crack beneath the door. "Please, open it. He comes back tonight." I nearly stepped away, but the voice sounded desperate. Not threatening, begging. I swallowed and forced myself to speak. "What's your name?" A rasp. "I don't know anymore." That answer chilled me more than anything else. But before I could say another word, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Quick tires, gravel crunching. I looked through the window and saw the landlord stepping out. No tools, no explanation, just a set of heavy keys in his hand and a stiff, determined posture, like someone preparing to put out a fire. He didn't knock. He let himself in with the spare key I didn't know he had. "You need to leave for a few hours," he said. No greeting, no expression. "I'm handling the basement today." I told him someone was down there. He didn't deny it. He didn't even blink. He just walked straight to the door, knelt, and examined the cracked lock with a sigh that sounded more tired than scared. "Go get lunch," he said. "Come back after dark." "I'm not leaving you here with—" He cut me off sharply. "You are not staying." The tone froze me more than the words. I grabbed my keys and stepped outside. But instead of leaving the property, I circled around the side of the house and crouched beneath the kitchen window. I heard the landlord unlock the basement door, heard him mutter something too low to make out, then the creak of stairs as he descended. Minutes passed. Then a heavy slam. Not the door, something deeper, metallic, echoing. Followed by a cry. A man's cry, sharp and terrified, muffled almost immediately. Then dragging, fast dragging, like something rushing across the floor to intercept him. I waited until the noises stopped. When the silence returned, it wasn't normal silence. It felt loaded, like breath held in a dark room. I didn't go back inside. I drove to a motel 2 towns over and stayed there until morning. When I returned for my belongings, the house looked untouched, but the basement door was gone entirely. Frame splintered out, hinges torn, the opening covered with a sheet of plywood screwed hastily into place. A police cruiser sat out front. An officer told me the landlord had been reported missing. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle, his car still in the driveway. I asked if they checked the basement. He said, "There is no basement. The house was built on a slab." I didn't argue. I didn't go back. I didn't even finish my lease. But sometimes, rarely, I still get calls from an unknown number. When I answer, there's nothing at first, just faint breathing. Then the same weak whisper I heard through the basement door, the one that asked if the man was gone. Only now, it asks something different. Did he send you instead?
I moved into this ground floor apartment in Joliet because it was cheap and close to work.
Yeah, the neighborhood is rough, but I figured deadbolts exist for a reason. I even bought a heavy steel bar for the sliding door. First night felt normal. Second night felt watched. Not in a paranormal way, just that street predator type of awareness you get walking past guys who don't blink enough. 3 days in, I come home from work and my apartment key doesn't fit. Not jammed, just wrong. The teeth don't catch. I try my spare. Nothing. My neighbor across the hall, this retired mailman named Brooks, sticks his head out. You get locked out? Looks like someone changed the lock. He rubs the back of his neck. Get the landlord, quick. The landlord shows up, swears he didn't touch anything, blames settling metal, and calls a locksmith. The locksmith looks at the cylinder and says quietly, "This isn't the model you described on the phone. This one's new, installed within the last few hours." He replaces it, hands me 2 keys, tells me to keep an eye out. I try to brush it off, but there's this weird detail. Nothing inside my apartment was moved. Nothing stolen. No signs of a break-in, no scratches on the doorframe. Like someone calmly swapped hardware in broad daylight and walked away. That night, I push a chair under the knob. Around 3 a.m., I hear something metal tapping lightly against the door, like someone testing it from the outside. Not rattling, almost polite. I hold my breath and stare at the gap under the door. A shadow passes by, slow, measured, then leaves. The next morning, the chair is still in place, but the deadbolt sits slightly crooked, and there are faint tool marks on the screws, like someone started taking it apart and stopped. I call the landlord again. He sounds irritated now, accuses me of messing with it myself. Whatever. I go to Home Depot, buy a different lock entirely, install it myself while FaceTiming my brother just so I have proof. I take photos, time-stamped. I go to work, 10-hour shift. Come back, and everything feels off before I even reach my door. My hallway smells faintly like warm metal. My doormat is turned upside down, and the lock? It's a third one. Not the original, not the replacement, not the one I installed with my own hands. A note is tucked under the doorframe. Printer paper, Sharpie, 1 sentence. Stop trying to seal what isn't yours. I called the cops after I found the note. They showed up an hour later, looked around, and treated the whole thing like some tenant-landlord drama. One officer asked if I'd been sleepwalking with tools. Another suggested maybe my ex had a key. I don't even have an ex. I showed them the photos, the timestamps, the new lock hardware. They shrugged, wrote a report, and left. Brooks from across the hall stood in his doorway, listening. When the cops finally walked out, he shuffled over. "You should think about moving," he said. "I just signed the lease." He stared at the new lock for a long moment. "Some doors don't want to stay closed." I tried to get him to explain, but he just went inside and shut his door softly, almost apologetically. That night, I stacked a plastic storage bin against my front door so I'd hear if it shifted. I didn't want to sit in silence, so I left the TV on low, just background noise to drown out my nerves. Around 2:40 a.m., the TV signal flickered, just a single static glitch, and the apartment went unnervingly quiet for a few seconds. Then I heard something, a tiny metallic scrape. Not at the door, inside. I froze on the couch, listening. It was coming from the hallway, my hallway. The kind of sound you hear when someone is adjusting a small screw, slow and deliberate. My mouth dried instantly. I grabbed my phone, turned on the screen, but kept the light off. No footsteps, no breathing, just that small, careful movement, like someone working on something mechanical with full confidence that I wouldn't interrupt. I forced myself to stand. My legs were shaking so bad, I had to brace against the armrest. I took 2 steps toward the hallway, thumb hovering over the flashlight icon. The scrape stopped. Silence stretched out so long it felt unnatural. When I finally turned the flashlight on, the beam wobbled. The hallway was empty. The bathroom door was open. Bedroom door open, front door untouched. I checked every corner of that place twice. Nobody was in my apartment. Nothing was missing, but on the inside of my door, behind my lock, someone had unscrewed the strike plate halfway. 3 screws loosened, one fully removed and placed neatly on top of my shoe rack, as if to say, "See? I can walk right in whenever I want." I didn't sleep. I sat upright on the couch, lights on, waiting for sunrise. As soon as the hardware store opened, I bought a chain lock, a bar lock, 2 hinge bolts, and a door brace. I reinforced everything. When I stepped back to admire the absurd amount of metal now protecting my crappy apartment, I noticed something new, a faint chalk mark above the doorframe. A small circle split by a vertical line. Not graffiti, too careful, too precise. I wiped it away. An hour later, it was back. By the 3rd week, I was existing on caffeine and dread. Every time I left for work, I took pictures of the lock, the frame, the hinges, everything. When I came home, something was always different. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just adjusted. A screw rotated a quarter turn, a hinge pin slightly raised. Once, the weather stripping was peeled back and reinstalled with cleaner edges, like someone was perfecting my door. I started asking neighbors if they'd seen anyone near my place. Most shut their doors before I finished my sentence, but the woman downstairs, Rosa, finally spoke up. "You're not the first," she whispered. "They did the same thing to the guy before you. He left in the middle of the night. Didn't even take his furniture." "Who's they?" She shook her head. "It's not one person." I didn't know what that meant, and she wouldn't say more. That night, I pushed my couch against the door. I didn't care how paranoid it looked. I needed something solid between me and whatever kept trying to convince me the apartment wasn't mine to secure. I sat on the floor with my back against the far wall, scrolling through locksmith forums. Nobody had stories like mine. Break-ins, sure. Vandalism, yes. But someone repeatedly making your security better or different? Nobody had a reference point for that. Around 4 a.m., I must have closed my eyes for a moment because suddenly there was a soft thud. Not at the door, on the inside wall, right beside my head. A gentle knock, almost testing. My breath caught. The couch was still pressed against the entrance. No movement, no footsteps. But the knock came again, lower this time, like someone dragging a knuckle slowly along the drywall. I forced myself up, grabbed a kitchen knife, and followed the sound down the hall. It stopped near the bedroom closet. My hands were shaking so hard the blade tapped against the doorframe. When I slid the closet door open, something fell forward. A key ring. 3 keys. All identical to the ones the locksmith had given me on the very first day. They were warm. I dropped them instantly, heart pounding. And that's when I saw it, behind the coats, near the floor panel. A cutout I'd never noticed. A small access hatch, paint matched to the wall. Someone had opened it recently. The edges were cleaner than the rest of the wall. My phone flashlight revealed a narrow crawl space, barely wide enough for a person. Dust disturbed, carpet fibers pushed inward. A path. It led directly under my apartment. I backed away, slowly. Every instinct screamed to run, but my legs felt cemented. I kept imagining someone, or several someones, lying silently in that crawl space, listening to every movement I made for weeks, waiting for something I still don't understand. When daylight finally came, I packed everything I owned into my car. Didn't call the landlord, didn't cancel the lease. I just left. Before pulling out of the lot, I looked back once. 3 men were standing in the hallway outside my old door. Clean clothes, blank expressions. Each held a different lock cylinder in one hand, like they were debating which one belonged there. One of them lifted his free hand in a small, precise motion, like he was marking something invisible in the air. I drove until my hands stopped shaking. I never went back, and I never, ever live on the ground floor anymore. The ad wasn't even supposed to be visible. That's what stuck with me first. I was scrolling through a local classified site on my phone, half asleep, looking for quick cash jobs. I'd done junk removal, dog sitting, random Craigslist stuff, nothing fancy. Then I saw this posting at the very bottom of the gigs section. No title, just a blank square you could still click. Inside was one line. $400 cash, 1 hour. Need a discreet helper. Do not share this listing.
No contact info, just a button to reply. I hesitated, but rent was late again. I typed, "Available tonight. What do you need done?" Hit send. The page refreshed and the listing vanished. Not expired, not flagged, gone like it had never been there. A minute later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown local number. "Come alone, no questions. 11:45 p.m., 612 Harlow Court, back entrance." I looked up the address. It was in a neighborhood I knew, older suburban place outside Columbus, the kind where every house looks like it's waiting to be sold. I told myself it was probably some rich guy wanting trash hauled out discreetly, maybe a cheating husband needing help moving stuff. Something embarrassing, not dangerous. People paid for privacy. I pulled up around 11:40. The houses were dark, but the backyard motion light of 612 kept flicking on like it was triggered by something just out of sight. There was no car in the driveway. Windows were covered from the inside with bedsheets.
The back entrance wasn't really an entrance, more like a basement door half sunk into the ground. The frame had scratch marks around the lock, like someone had tried to pry it before giving up. I texted, "I'm here." The reply came instantly. "Go inside, turn left, close the door behind you." No greeting, no instructions about money, nothing. When I pushed the door open, the smell hit me first, stale, like a room that had been closed off for months. The single bulb above the stairs flickered. Something about the place felt wrong. Not dangerous, just wrong in that way an empty school at night feels wrong. I stepped down into the basement. Concrete floor, folding table, 2 dusty lawn chairs, a thick orange extension cord running from a wall outlet into a locked wooden cabinet. The door shut behind me, harder than I meant to. A heavy thud echoed through the basement. Before I could call out, my phone vibrated again. "Do not touch the cabinet. Wait where you are." There was no sound upstairs, no footsteps, no car arriving, nothing. Then came another text. "If anyone else enters, you must not speak." My stomach dropped because I could hear someone moving above me, slow, careful steps across the floorboards, directly over my head. The steps above me weren't heavy, they sounded measured, like someone trying to place each foot exactly where they meant to. Whoever it was knew the house well. They paused at certain points, right over the basement door, then near the corner above the cabinet. My phone buzzed again. "Stay still." I typed back, "Who else is here?" No reply. A minute passed, maybe less, maybe more. The basement light hummed, the kind of faint electrical whine old bulbs give off. I could hear breathing too, but I couldn't tell if it was mine or coming from above. Then something subtle changed. The footsteps weren't overhead anymore. They were on the stairs, slow, one at a time. A shoe sliding slightly on the wood, a hand brushing the railing. I stepped backward instinctively, bumping into the folding table. One of the lawn chairs wobbled. I grabbed it to stop it from tipping, but my fingers brushed against something sticky on the seat. Dark, reddish, dried. My phone vibrated again. "Do not look at them." Them? I didn't have time to question it. The basement door creaked open. I kept my eyes on the floor like an idiot, heart hammering. I saw the tip of a shoe first, black, scuffed, like it had been dragged rather than walked in. Then another. The steps were uneven now. Whoever was coming down wasn't the person texting me. That much I knew immediately. They stopped halfway. Breathing, ragged, wet, filled the stairwell. I forced myself not to lift my head. Behind me, the locked cabinet made a soft clicking sound, like something inside shifted its weight, or settled, or listened. Another text. "You're doing fine." Do not acknowledge them. I wanted to bolt up the stairs past whoever was there, but I couldn't even feel my legs. The air was thick, humid, like a bathroom after a long shower. The stranger on the stairs coughed, deep, guttural. Then they muttered something, but the words were mush, like their mouth didn't open properly. They descended 2 more steps. I clenched my jaw. My eyes stung. Another message. When they reached the floor, sit. Do not run. The shoe tips moved into my peripheral vision. They were wrong in a way I couldn't name. Maybe the angle, maybe the dragging walk. I lowered myself slowly, sitting on the cold concrete. My hands shook so badly, I had to press my palms against the ground just to steady them. The figure stopped beside me. Too close. Their breathing shifted,
angled toward the cabinet now, not me. A soft scrape came from inside the cabinet again. Then my phone buzzed. Do not let them open it. My throat went dry. Because the stranger was reaching toward the cabinet latch with a trembling hand I didn't dare look at fully. And I realized whoever texted me wasn't coming. They were already here, just not in the basement. Not yet. The stranger's hand hovered over the cabinet latch, shaking like they didn't fully control it. I kept my gaze low, but I could see enough. Their fingers were swollen, knuckles scraped, nails broken down to the skin. Someone had dragged this person here recently, or they'd tried to escape something. My phone buzzed again.
Stand up, slowly. I rose just high enough to feel the stranger turn toward me. Their breathing hitched sharply, like they were about to speak or scream, but nothing came out. Only a wet rattling in their throat. The next text came fast. Tell them not now. Say it quietly. My stomach twisted. I didn't want to talk to whoever this was, but the hand on the cabinet latch twitched like it was about to pull. So I whispered, barely audible, not now. The reaction was immediate. The stranger jerked their hand away like they'd been shocked. They staggered backward, clutching their chest. Something about the words affected them, trained them, conditioned them. They turned toward the stairs, wobbling, bumping into the wall, and climbed back up with desperate, uneven steps. The basement door creaked shut behind them. My phone dinged again. Good. You can leave now. Do not look at them on your way out. I didn't waste time. I hurried up the stairs, pushing the basement door open just enough to slip through. The hallway was dim except for a battery lamp sitting on the floor. And there, slumped against the far wall, was the stranger. A man in his late 40s maybe, shirt ripped, face bruised, eyes unfocused like he didn't fully register me. His lips kept moving, forming silent words. I kept my eyes down and walked past him. His breathing hitched as I did, but he didn't reach for me. Another text buzzed. Do not leave through the front. I stopped cold. The front door was 5 feet away. Back door, now. I forced myself down the hallway toward the kitchen. The tile floor had drag marks, long arcing paths like someone had been pulled across it repeatedly. The back door was unlocked. I stepped outside, expecting the night air to hit me, but the yard was silent. Too silent. No bugs, no traffic. Even the motion light stayed off this time. As I crossed the grass, one final message came in. Do not contact this number again. You did well. Payment is under the cinder block by the fence. I lifted the block. An envelope. 420s. No instructions, no closure, no explanation who that man was, or what was in the cabinet, or why I'd been the one answering an ad I was never supposed to see. As I reached my car, the house's back motion light finally flicked on. It illuminated two figures in the window, the man from the hallway, and someone standing behind him. Taller, still, watching me leave like they'd been waiting the entire time. I drove off without looking back. I didn't report anything, I didn't respond to the number, and the listing never appeared again. But sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzes with a number I don't recognize. I don't open the messages, because I'm scared one day the text will say, "Come alone, no questions, same place." This was LurmoStories, where deleted posts and dead accounts still have something to say. Now it's just you, your screen, and the thought that someone might be typing about you right now.